The role of the first four primaries is to narrow the field. We started with 17 candidates. Initially, the directory for the debates looked like the phone book. But the first four states have narrowed it down to 3 candidates with any sort of path to the nomination.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Blackwell in for Ed Berliner. Change is coming to the Republican presidential campaign. You heard Ted Cruz right there talking about change. Well, change from the standpoint, we are no longer talking about single state events. Voters in more than a dozen states and territories will step into the voting booth on March 1st, Super Tuesday. And expect change tonight in Texas, one of those Super Tuesday states. The 5 remaining Republican candidates debate in Houston. Ted Cruz was talking about 3. There will be 5 tonight, along with John Kasich and Ben Carson. The stakes have never been higher. Will the gloves come off when it comes to the front runner, Donald Trump? Houston, will we have a problem? Well, we begin tonight with the political animal. From the right, Ford O'Connell, the Republican strategist, proud Texan, and from the left, J.D. Gins, the executive director of the Travis County, Texas Democratic Party. So Ford, always big in Texas, big stakes, big audience. Are you expecting big fireworks on that stage tonight?
Well, I have yet to see anyone go after Trump, and until they do, guess what? Here's what I believe is going to happen. Rubio and Cruz are going to keep punching heads, and if they keep punching heads, Donald Trump's going to lap them some more.
J.D., I want to get to you, but first, Ford, let's stay on this. Why isn't Rubio going after the front runner? And why Ted Cruz has made some inroads in that area, but why are these guys not going after Trump?
Well, because I don't know whether they're delusional or they don't see the bigger picture. If they don't basically pool their collective fire and turn it on Trump, he's going to skate by with a plurality of the votes and win the nomination in the next 3 weeks.
All right, JD, let's get into some poll numbers right here. We talked about Tuesday, the big day, obviously. It's also the day of the Texas primary, 155 Republican delegates at stake. Ted Cruz has got to win this state, right? He's got to win his home state if he has any chance to be the nominee. Real Clear Politics takes the last 5 polls, and the average of those numbers right now, Ted Cruz in the lead with 34% of the vote. Donald Trump is at 27%. Marco Rubio at 18%. John Kasich stands at 7%. Ben Carson trails the field with 5%. You're on the ground. What do you think right now? Where is the state of the race right now as we're heading into March 1st and a lot of those elections?
Well, it's looking really bad for Ted Cruz. He needs to win, and he needs to win big. And even if the returns come back looking like Real Clear Politics average, that's not good enough. That means Donald comes out with a lot of delegates as well, and he has not much going forward. Ted Cruz is looking rather weak right now. And I think a lot of people know it's because his brand of conservative values is not even mainstream Republican values. But I would say that they're probably playing nice with Donald Trump right now because they're all angling to see who can actually make it as the VP choice. So if Donald Trump needs a Hispanic as a VP choice, why would either Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio want to piss him off?
Ford, I'm curious what your thought is about the state of the race. We saw those Real Clear numbers. A lot of people think it's a lot closer than that, but the Real Clear numbers have it 34-27. What about the Trump momentum after winning the last couple of states, Nevada and South Carolina? Do you think tonight that basically he just can't have a terrible performance, that he just kind of has to, carry this thing out?
Well, yeah, I do think that basically Donald Trump could have an average performance and do well on Super Tuesday, but understand that's just not Donald Trump's style. He's definitely going to make an issue or an example of someone. The only question is which of the other 4 candidates on the stage. He may even go after the Pope. He may go after Hillary Clinton. It doesn't really matter because it's all about Donald Trump, and that's what the other candidates have to stop. Back to something that JD said, yes, Ted Cruz has to win Texas. If he doesn't, it becomes the Alamo and he loses. But understand something else. Ted Cruz went on the Southern strategy with evangelicals. He not only has to win Texas on Super Tuesday, he has to do very well in a lot of other states. And if he doesn't, his pathway to the nomination is pretty much blocked because there aren't a lot of other delegates. As long as Marco Rubio's in the race, they're going to break for him.
And South Carolina shows that that's not a guarantee at all.
I want to ask you guys about Texas because it said in the polling, too, only 6% of people are undecided in Texas. When we were talking New Hampshire, we'd see half the electorate still not sure who they were voting for in the final week. But not in Texas, right? They know what they like. Is there much at stake tonight, or do you think people in Texas and across the Southeast have pretty much decided who they're going to vote for?
I think there's a lot at stake, and I think that it's a question of can they start to angle themselves to being the number 2 spot? Again, I really think that now you're starting to see the Republican Party start trying to figure out who's going to run with Donald Trump. They're not attacking Donald Trump because they want to be his running mate. And so I think right now you're going to see them attack down after Donald Trump each other. And I think who can come out on top is a big question. Last time we saw Marco Rubio go out on the offense, he ended up getting a little embarrassed. So I think he'll be a little more cautious than people are expecting.
Well, and Rick, to your point about undecided, it's not so much that they're undecided. The question is, are they persuadable to a second choice? And usually the second choice of most voters thus far has been Trump or Rubio.
JD, boy, we keep hearing from Mitt Romney. He seems like he's once again entered this race. He suggests Trump's tax returns could present some problems for him. Nothing seems to stick on Trump, but do Rubio and Cruz go after Trump tonight, maybe on his personal tax returns?
I don't know. I think I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what Mitt Romney is doing here. I think he just is a little upset that he's not really relevant in this conversation anymore. I think he's wishing he had run a third time and that he might still be standing there. But I bet you're going to see these undercard people, Rubio and Cruz, take it easy because they don't want to make him mad. They want to be Donald Trump's running mate, and so they know they got to take it easy on him.
Go ahead, Ford.
Understand how you defeat Donald Trump in a Republican primary. You don't go after his conservative bona fides. You don't go after his ideology. What you have to cast doubt on is his very vision, that he is the man to make America great. And one way to start that conversation of casting doubt is bringing in things like his tax returns in the same way that Trump brings in whether or not Cruz or Rubio is a natural-born citizen. This is about perception, not facts and reality.
JD, I want to touch upon this whole concept that you're saying that you don't think that Rubio thinks he has a chance. Now, granted, Quinnipiac released a poll today. He's down 16 points in his home state of Florida. But He keeps talking right now like, if we can get if Kasich drops out of the race or Carson drops out, that possibly that's going to open the door. If it's a 3-person race, that benefits Marco Rubio. What's your take right now as far as what Rubio is thinking? And again, especially in light of that Quinnipiac number.
Maybe he's hoping for a meteorite to come and take out Donald Trump. I don't think he has much of a hope. And I think you heard it in Donald Trump's victory speech in Nevada. He said he's ready to come to Florida. He's looking to taking out the governor in Ohio. And I think most of the Republican running against him know that they got to be very careful. So, yeah, maybe people who are getting no traction in the Republican primary dropping out will make a big difference. But if you add up their support, it still doesn't catch him up to Trump. So I don't know that he's got a magic formula. I think he's playing for the VP.
Ford, what's your take on this whole VP strategy that Marco Rubio, according to JD, has? I mean, personally, I think he's running for number 1. But what are your thoughts right now as far as what he did today in that Quinnipiac poll and what he needs to do tonight?
Well, I think he absolutely has to win Florida if he wants to be the nominee, but understand that there's only 2 people at the end of this that are going to be the Republican nominee. Donald Trump, who has a 70% chance of being it, and then Marco Rubio has about a 25% chance of being it. Marco Rubio is not running to be Trump's VP. He very well could become Trump's VP, but Rubio is running to win. He's just trying to figure out how in a closed primary in Florida he can win the state of Florida over the next 15 days. And really, he doesn't know, because if he did, he'd already be doing it.
And it doesn't look like he has an opportunity to. It's like you said, Ford said, if he had an opportunity to do it, he'd already be doing it. So, I mean, if they've got a magic formula up their sleeve, now's the time to start doing it. And I think, 2 weeks ago was probably the time to start doing it. I don't think they have an option right now. I think it's becoming more and more clear every day to everybody, including the people running for president, that Donald Trump's going to get the nomination.
JD, want to ask both of you actually about John Kasich, because he's still in this race. He's obviously banking on Ohio. It looks like he's doing fairly well in his own state. But what's his strategy tonight? I mean, is he just going to play the guy that, again, is filled with hope and optimism? Ford, I'll start with you.
Well, that's exactly what John Kasich's been doing, but what John Kasich doesn't understand, that even if he wins Ohio, it's not really going to change the calculus unless he's the only other person in the race. The bottom line is John Kasich is out, and he's playing for VP, but he should be helping Marco Rubio, and they should have a backdoor deal, because if he is to be VP, it would be for Marco Rubio.
But if you add John Kasich to Marco Rubio's numbers, Marco Rubio still doesn't win the nomination.
JD, stop the national poll nonsense. I'm tired of the same dim talking points over and over. You guys think you want to take on Trump? I'm going to tell you right now, Trump is going to kick Hillary's backside. So keep wishing for Trump.
That's okay, but I mean, I'm not averaging national polls. You just look at the returns. John Kasich plus Rubio doesn't win. It's not there. So I don't know what you're really playing for.
And guys, I really think that's going to be a big part of the discussion tonight. I think one thing Rubio is going to push on, obviously, is his electability. He seems to be talking about it nonstop. Ford, don't you think that's his track as far as what he needs to do?
It has always been his track to talk about electability and unifying the party. He's been leading Hillary Clinton for the last 7 months in the polls. But the problem is, for Marco Rubio, only 25% of the Republican electorate cares about winning in November. That may change in the next 3 weeks, but that's just where we are.
All right, one last quick question to you both. Let me cut you off real quick, JD. Dick Morris told Breitbart Marco Rubio's personal finances will be used against him in a general election if he was the eventual GOP nominee. What do you guys think in the final 30 seconds?
Well, I don't think he isn't a billionaire who's had to declare bankruptcy several times. I think his personal finances truly do look more like the everyday Americans. And I do think that, it's not a whole thing against him. I think the question is for Donald Trump, you're a billionaire that's declaring bankruptcy. Something's wrong there. I think it's a little unfair on Marco Rubio personally.
In 15 seconds, Ford, what do you think about Dick Morris's comments?
I think that Dick Morris doesn't understand that John Q. Public would actually identify with Marco Rubio, particularly when we unlock Hillary Clinton's finances.
Yeah, we keep hearing Marco Rubio when he does talk about how to tackle poverty. He says that it's his personal background. He's going to use that to his advantage, I think. But we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting night tonight. Ford O'Connell, JD Gintz, thank you so much. Newsmax is going to have all your post-debate coverage tonight. Join J.D. Hayworth and the team beginning at 11 p.m. with special guest Mike Huckabee. When we return, we're going to go around the dial with Jerry Doyle of EpicTimes.com. Stay tuned to the Hardline.